Hello, it's Thursday, June 20th of 2024, and today I'm here at Luz Station in the center of São Paulo, Brazil, to explore the city's surprisingly modern metro by riding all 5 heavy rail lines. I'm now walking through Luz Station, and as you can see, it's quite beautiful. The station was built by the São Paulo Railway, a British train company, which explains its similarities to stations in the UK, like Paddington. I'll explore the station and its history further in a future video. Although the mainline station is above ground, the ticket barriers are located on the basement level. Once you take the escalator down, the architecture begins to look more utilitarian. The metro currently costs 5 reais, or 88 US cents and falling as of recording. This flat rate is valid for all rail services in the metro area and gives you discounted transfers to city buses if you use Bilhete Único, which leads me into the transit card situation. To pay, you can use one of 2 transit cards, those being Bilhete Único or TOP, or you can buy a QR code ticket from the TOP app. But you can only acquire these cards or use the app if you're a permanent resident in Brazil, so tourists are forced to purchase individual tickets from the ticket offices. I think the idea is to protect from theft since every card is personalized, but it makes it much more difficult for tourists to use the system. And don't get me started on the whole 2 transit cards thing because it's ridiculous. As I make the long walk to the Line 4 platform, let's go over some general facts. The city's metropolitan transport network is made up of 6 metro lines, one of which is a monorail that will get its own separate video, and 7 fully integrated train lines operated by CPTM and Via Mobilidade, a private operator. Each of the lines have been assigned numbers and names. The metro lines are named after colors, the train lines after precious stones, and the monorails after metals. I've never seen this naming scheme used before, and I think it's a fantastic way to subtly differentiate between the modes. The metro, which is operated by 3 companies, serves 91 stations over 104 kilometers of track. The metro carried 1.2 billion passengers in 2023, making it the 2nd busiest in the Americas, behind the New York City subway, of course. Although, to be fair, New York's system is more than 10 times longer. As soon as you pass into the Line 4 yellow section of the station, you can instantly see a change in architecture. The station is centered around this large skylight-lit shaft with crisscrossing escalators up and down. Before descending to the platform, I grabbed some tapioca from a food stall, which are very common in the metro. The station also has bathrooms, which are surprisingly common as well. They're never clean, but at least they exist. Luz is a terminus for Line 4, so during the off-peak, boarding and alighting happens on the same platform. However, during peak times, to alleviate congestion, the 2nd platform is opened, allowing one to be used for boarding and the other for alighting. When both platforms are being used, trains turn around past the station. At the bottom of the escalator, passengers are required to bend around to the right. This is because the station can get so crowded that without the barriers, head-on collisions would occur with passengers queuing to take the escalator up. This barrier-based passenger control is very prevalent throughout the system. The platform is wide and fitted with platform screen doors, as is normal across all the stations on this line. Above each door is a convenient line diagram that shows each station and their connections. There are a few ridiculously expensive vending machines scattered along the platform if you ever get hungry or thirsty and can't be bothered to speak to a real human. All of the train doors are clearly numbered, and each car has been assigned its own color, making it trivial to board through the door closest to your exit, which slightly reduces walking time and congestion at your destination station. Accurate live departure boards are present that also attempt to show how full each car is, although they could benefit from receiving a graphical redesign. Line 4 yellow operates from here at Luz Station to the southwest, towards Vila Sônia. Many of the quirks and features of the line can be explained by the fact that the line is serviced by 29 fully automatic Korean Hyundai Rotem units. This is why trains are able to run as frequently as every 90 seconds during rush hour, but off-peak they run every 4 minutes or so. The trains are 6 cars long, and each car has 4 doors per side. They're powered by an overhead catenary and are fully walk-through, with a mix of longitudinal and transverse seats. I don't understand how some people, Americans, don't want walk-through trains in their city because they increase capacity, make the trains feel more spacious, allow you to get away from mentally disturbed passengers, and, most importantly, being able to see from one end to the other is awesome. The train has advertisement screens as well as announcements with a very weird English voice.
Please do not lock the train doors.
The line is operated by Via Quatro, a subsidiary of Grupo CCR, a private company which mostly maintains highways. I don't know how I feel about public-private partnerships, but for some reason they seem to result in better projects here that provide a nicer passenger experience. You'll shortly see the difference between this line and the public lines. The Line 4 platform at República is basically the same as the one at Luz, but it does have some lovely turquoise pillars at the northeast end. Turquoise is starting to become a favorite color of mine. The connection to Line 3 is not bad. First, you have to walk through some passenger counters, which are present at all transfer stations because the private operators earn subsidies for each passenger traveling on their specific line. You then go down an escalator, circle around on this large empty mezzanine level, and descend once again. The signs lead you to the center boarding platform because this station uses the Spanish solution. The solution is essentially a platform arrangement where one side of the train is solely for boarding and the other for alighting. If you want more detailed information on this design, check out my Dulles Airport Transit video and go to the timestamp on screen now. The station wasn't built with platform screen doors, so metal barriers have been installed to slightly reduce the chance of someone falling onto the tracks, and as a byproduct, they let people know where the doors will be when the train stops. I find the green and blue wall panels an interesting design choice because, although they do look cool, lines 1 and 2, the green and blue lines, do not serve this station. In my opinion, a red design would fit better, but maybe they didn't want to overdo it, you know? The platform doesn't have any departure boards, but it does have a red LED time and date display, which reminds me of the old red-green New York City subway displays that would show the same information. Line 3 Red runs in an east-west direction across the city, from Corinthians Itaquera to Palmeiras Barra Funda. Lines 1, 2, and 3 are what I like to call the classic lines. They're all operated by Metro, have a broad 1600mm gauge, the distance between the rails, they're electrified by a third rail, and have traditional segmented trains. The train I rode was a G-stock train manufactured by Alstom. As alluded to by the line diagrams, this train previously operated on Line 1, but according to Wikipedia, the most reliable source as we all know, these trains also used to run on Line 2. On the classic lines, all of the grab handles are blue instead of the color of the line because the rolling stock is flexible. This train, just like the ones on Line 4, has multiple screens per car. I think that every single train across the entire metro has screens, but instead of showing useful navigation information, they're used for news and safety announcements as well as advertising, which does theoretically bring in more money. The script and voices of the announcements on the classic lines are different to those on Via Quatro's Line 4. I have no preference for the Portuguese voice, but the English announcements are much better. I also love the Metro jingle. It sort of reminds me of the French SNCF jingle for some reason. Although my planned route requires me to transfer at Sé, the previous station, I decided to go one stop further and visit Pedro II to show you all something that every single metro system should be doing. This station, which opened in 1980, has recently been retrofitted with platform screen doors just like the ones on Line 4. These doors increase safety and efficiency, and slowly but surely the older metro stations are getting upgraded with them. This is especially incredible to see because this is not happening in most of the Western world, and I wouldn't have expected São Paulo of all places to be leading the charge. Since I'm already here, I might as well talk a bit more about the station. For one, it's obviously above ground, so I have to walk down the escalator to get to the concourse. On the right here, there's intriguingly a space for another escalator, but it seems like it never got installed. From here, you can walk over a footbridge to get to the Expresso Tiradentes BRT, which received a silver BRT standard rating. But the most fascinating part of the station is this giant circular hole in the middle that reveals an unconstructed metro line underground. This line was planned to be a southeastern extension of what is now called Line 4, but this project has sadly long been abandoned. In any case, it's cool to see how this station was future-proofed. I took the train back one stop to Sé, and I discovered that it too makes use of the Spanish solution, but here you board from the side platforms instead of the middle one like at República. The train was actually so crowded that I had to exit on the wrong side because I physically wouldn't have been able to reach the other doors without pushing through. Sé station is built in what I lovingly call the large concrete box style, and is adorned with orange tiles here on the Line 3 platform. From the top concourse level, you can see both the Line 1 and Line 3 platforms, which are not perfectly perpendicular, down a circular shaft in the same style as the one at Pedro II, allowing for some awesome shots. Both lines make use of the Spanish solution here because it's just so busy. The station has a dirty bathroom, a lost and found, which is only open on weekdays, and a mini mock-up of the very first metro rolling stock at Estação da Memória, or Memory Station. When attempting to continue my journey, I accidentally went to the wrong platform, so I had to go back up and follow the convenient floor signs towards line 1 to Jabaquara. This platform, decorated with a lime tile pattern, has metal barriers, but since this side is only for boarding, space doesn't need to be made for alighting passengers. The barriers mark out little waiting areas for each door, which are definitely necessary because, for some context, it's 1 p.m. on a Thursday and these little booths are filling up so fast. Again, there are no departure boards, but trains come every 3 minutes or so there's really no need. Actually, I don't know why I'm defending the system. There should always be a live departure board. The first line opened in the 70s, so there's no excuse. Every line has the technology to support them, so I don't understand their presence at random stations. Anyway, Line 1 Blue runs from Tucuruvi in the north all the way down south to Jabaquara Station. I rode on an L-stock train, a modernized variation of the older D-stock trains constructed by Mafersa, which was the largest railway manufacturer in the country until it was acquired by Alstom in 1997. Paraíso station is home to the only cross-platform transfer on the metro. It's between lines 1 and 2, which would have been very convenient for me, but unfortunately it's for the opposite direction, so I was unable to make use of it. The station has a very weird layout. The line 1 platforms are stacked, and the line 2 platforms are side by side on the lower level, so you have 1 track on top and 3 on the bottom having the cross-platform transfer. I've never seen this layout before, and it was most likely chosen to facilitate the planned but abandoned Moema branch of the north-south line, what is now line 1. The font on the signage is different here, which is not great for wayfinding. It really should be standardized system-wide. Before transferring to line 2, I also noticed the geographically accurate system map displayed on the wall. I can't think of any other metro systems that display maps like this within stations off the top of my head, but I'm sure they exist, so please let me know of any in the comments. Line 2 Green runs between Vila Madalena and Vila Prudente stations, the Vilas. I was on an I-stock train, a refurbished version of the old A-stock trains, but the train looked so incredibly similar to the L-stock from line 1 that I didn't even notice while recording that it was, in fact, a different model. Although, to be fair, I'm not great at differentiating rolling stock anyway. The next stop down, Anahosa, also serves both lines, creating an amazing opportunity to build a same direction cross-platform transfer to complement the one at Paraíso. But they didn't do that. It's just 2 separate island platforms connected with a concourse above. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. I don't have much else to say about Line 2 other than it seems to be most people's favorite for some reason, so let's get forward to Chácara Klabin, the terminus of Line 5. Chácara Klabin has a London Underground style design with a twin tunnel and slightly curved tiled walls. The view from above even kind of looks like the newer Jubilee line stations. The platforms are nice and wide, which, as we've seen, is the norm, and the signage has thankfully returned back to its standard font. Before I head down to Line 5 Lilac, not Purple, the last heavy rail metro line, I wanted to mention this interesting looking art installation on the wall of this stairwell and the various signs telling people that Line 5 is actually down and not up the stairs. Down at the Line 5 concourse level there are more food stalls, which allows me to continue the video without having to exit to eat. As a customer, I love these, but I would not like to work down here all day without sunlight. The concourse also had an umbrella rental machine, something I'd never seen before. I wonder how much it's actually used. Just like Luz at the start, this terminus 2 closes 1 platform off-peak. Using 1 platform instead of 2 reduces maintenance and security costs. The platform has numbered platform screen doors with line diagrams above, making it very similar to the Line 4 platforms, but there are weirdly no departure boards. Considering Line 5 is the newest, you would expect it to be the best, but spoiler alert, it's not. Line 5 is operated by Via Mobilidade, another subsidiary of Grupo CCR. If you forget which companies operate which lines, don't worry. The Metro map helpfully lists the operator next to the corresponding line so you know exactly who to complain to when something goes wrong. The line starts here at Chácara Klabin and continues to Capão Redondo in the southwest. Line 5 is serviced by F-stock and P-stock trains. I rode in the latter. The first thing you notice after boarding is not anything in the train itself, but instead this awful door closing sound. The train is fully walk-through and runs on standard gauge track, just like Line 4, but it somehow seems narrower. It seems so much narrower, in fact, that it probably is. Above each pair of doors are 2 green arrows that light up to let passengers know which side of the train will open at the next station. In between them is the line diagram, which amusingly shows the Line 17 gold monorail that still doesn't have an opening date set in stone. This project was originally planned to be operational for the 2014 World Cup. It's been 10 years, and frankly, little progress has been made. made, so I feel like the 17 square should be covered up. The train also has some screens and a map, which, as in most trains, is unfortunately outdated. As the train is run by a third operator, there is once again a different jingle and different announcements. However, the English is still spoken by that weird guy from line 4. We passed by Campo Belo, the first island platform I passed on the line, and also the transfer with the future Line 17 monorail, and shortly after pulled into Santo Amaro Station, which I like to refer to as São Paulo's Blackfriars. If you aren't familiar with Blackfriars Station in London, the one in my channel banner, it's notable because it sits directly over the River Thames. Santo Amaro too was built over a river, the Rio Pinheiros, but you can't even see it from the platform because the entire station is covered in this white wrap. I think this is to protect from an intense greenhouse effect, but it would have been so much nicer if you could see down into the river. These little ripped holes give a taste of what the view could have been like. If the holes weren't present, the bridge cables between the tracks would be the only indication from the platform level that the station is over a river. The platform has purple seats that match the color of the line and has blue tactile tiles that contrast well with the ground. For some reason, the platform is slightly below the door level, so little ramps to each door have been installed. If this was an intentional decision, I don't understand it. There's also, funnily enough, a yellow line in front of the platform screen doors, even though it's impossible to cross. After another crowded train came and went, I realized that the door numbers on line 5 are shockingly inconsistent with the numbering on line 4. Line 4's doors are numbered sequentially, but line 5's door numbers are separated into 2 digits. The first for the car, from 1 to 6, and the second for the door, from 1 to 4. This means that, although the trains have an identical number of doors, the last door on line 4 is door 24, and the last door on line 5 is number 64. This is ridiculous. Anyway, as I said before, line 5 was the last metro line, so why haven't I ended the video yet? Since I didn't have time to record a dedicated urban train video, I decided to compensate by riding one of the train lines now, Line 9 Emerald, to give you all a feel for the complementary network. The walk to the train was surprisingly long, but to make up for it, I was able to get a decent shot of the Santo Amaro Station bridge. The Line 9 platforms have a remarkable number of plants and are fully covered with the concourse above. Although the station is right alongside a noisy highway, the Marginal Pinheiros, it's easy to tune out the sound because the station itself is so lovely. As expected, there are no live departure boards, but the trains arrive every 8 minutes or so most of the time. I understand that the train network may not even have the technology to display accurate departure times, so I can accept that the boards aren't present, although they should really try to upgrade their signaling systems soon. Line 9 runs from Vila Natal in the south to Osasco in the north, paralleling the Pinheiros River to the west of the city, as well as the highway and the bike-only path alongside. The line is operated by a different Via Mobilidade to Line 5, which is very confusing, but it doesn't really matter since they're all owned by the same companies. The trains are wider and longer than those on the metro, but they run less frequently. Something I want to point out is that the grab handles in the 8900 series train that I was on are colored turquoise and gray, representing lines 8 and 9, which these trains run on. I thought that was a pretty neat touch. São Paulo is so massive that it could easily support more than 30 metro lines, so it only makes sense that there are countless new lines and extensions planned, but unfortunately only a handful are under construction. Those are the Line 17 Gold monorail from Morumbi to Congonhas and Washington Luiz, the Line 6 Orange Metro from Brasilândia in the north to the city center, the Line 2 Green extension from Vila Prudente to Penha, and finally the Line 15 Silver monorail extension from Jardim Colonial further east to Cidade Tiradentes. Despite the fact that many more lines should be under construction, São Paulo is still making way more progress than any other system on the continent. Although I quite like the metro for the most part, I'm aware that the passenger experience across the system can be very bad, from small things like the door numbering being inconsistent across lines 4 and 5 to bigger things like a lack of customer information, multiple operators each with their own policies, multiple transit cards that work with different bus companies, ancient rolling stock on some train lines, and ultra-crowded facilities during rush hour. On the other hand, I love how clean, frequent, and generally safe the metro is. While lines 4 and 5 are undoubtedly the best looking and the most comfortable, the classic lines are just as effective at moving passengers and they hold their own well. My favorite part of the system has to be how everything is integrated between all the different operators, including between the metro and train systems. I have the impression that many train enthusiasts are familiar with London, so imagine if the national rail and tube services were fully integrated and you didn't have to go through 1 or 2 sets of barriers to transfer. How amazing would that be? Well, that's what it's like here in São Paulo. Well, that was a long video. This has taken forever to write and record, and now I need to edit the whole thing, so I really hope you all enjoyed and learned something new. That's all from me for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!